Mr. DeFazio from Oregon. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California rise?
To address the House for 5 minutes.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, America has made great strides in the last century to provide rights and protections to our most disadvantaged communities. Laws were made that limited the workday and made it illegal for companies to profit from child labor. Women were given the right to vote. The Civil Rights Act codified Martin Luther King's dream by ensuring that all people of color could attain equal rights. But the fight is not over. People are still trying to deny Americans equal protection under the law for being who they are. Yesterday, Republicans tried to block an important provision to protect gays, lesbians, transgenders, and bisexuals from being targeted, harassed, injured, or even killed due to acts of bias and hatred. The Matthew Shephard Hate Crimes Prevention Act will give the LGBT community the same protections already provided to other groups that have been discriminated against in our nation's history. Many are familiar with the hatred and bigotry perpetrated against people of different races and religions. Take the case of Kenny Chu, a 17-year-old Asian American from Orange County, California, who was simply standing in the driveway of his own home when he was grabbed and brutally stabbed 26 times. In the last hour of his life, he was able to identify his killer. It was his 20-year-old next-door neighbor who was a neo-Nazi sympathizer and was looking for a minority to kill. But members of the LGBT community face the same harassment every day just for being who they are. Larry King was a gay 8th grader from Ventura, California, who used to come to school dressed differently. He was the subject of great harassment. Other boys made fun of him, called him names, and threw wet paper towels at him in the boys' restroom. Then one morning, behind the computer lab at his junior high school, a fellow classmate shot him twice in the head. In contrast to the case of Kenny Chu, Larry King's murder is not covered by our federal hate crimes law. This must change. When asked by my constituents why I support this bill, I described my experience as chair of the California State Select Committee on Hate Crimes, where I held hearings on hate crimes across all the communities of the state. After hearing these horrific stories and listening to heartbroken families, I know I cannot fight for the civil rights of one group without fighting for the civil rights of the other. Things will not change until people stand up and say, we will not tolerate making anybody in America a second-class citizen. As long as intolerance exists, as long as there are people out there that turn a blind eye to hate and bigotry, then we as a human race are doomed to repeat the horrors of the past. In California, what happened to Larry King is considered a hate crime. It is one of only 5 states in the nation that include sexual orientation and gender identity and the definition of a hate crime. But in the nation, many are left without such protection because federal law leaves many states without the resources or expertise to effectively investigate and prosecute bias-motivated violent crimes in the LGBT community. That is why tomorrow we must pass the Matthew Shephard Hate Crimes Prevention Act so that every teenager who goes to school can be who they are, knowing they are protected by the United States of America. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back my time.
Mr. Moran from Kansas. For what purpose does the gentlelady from North Carolina rise?